Test, test. All right. Well, that was really weird. I apologize. Super weird. Hang on just a second. Let me zoom this in. Well, it's not letting me zoom in. So the computer I'm making this video on kicked me out in the middle of my video. That's why the last few minutes of the last video were blank, because it said I'm going to do updates now, which really, really made me mad. But anyway, here we are. I apologize for that. Here we were almost finished too. Seriously, this is our very last question. So I believe we had done. I watched the video, so I know you can see the 0.005 for the right, the 0.995 for the left, and the 29 degrees of freedom. So I should be able to get these two numbers by just looking into this table. And let's start with the 0.005, which is the right-hand guy, which is way over here on the far right-hand side. And we're looking at 29 degrees of freedom, which is way down here. And I'm going to follow it down. And that to me says 52.336. So for the 0.05 guy, 005, which is the right-hand guy, it's 52.336. All right. And for the left-hand guy, the 99.5, which is 99.5% of the area, is on the right-hand side of that left guy. 29 degrees of freedom. So here we are. 13.121. 13.121. All right, 13.121. Okay, so those give me my two numbers. And then I need, so those are just the endpoints though, right? That's your left-hand side and your right-hand side. That's where we want to truncate basically that chi-square guy to make him look more normal. That's the plan. So that's not quite what we wanted. If you'll remember, we were looking for that the confidence interval for the standard deviation, right? So confidence interval for standard deviation of the population. So here we go. The S was 1.2 milligrams, right? That was the standard deviation. Okay. And so then we know that the confidence interval for the sigma guy, we're going to find that by using this square root thing that we looked at earlier, right? So if you remember, it was n minus 1. Well, n is 30 minus 1 times the s squared. Well, the s is 1.2 squared over, in this case, remember, it was my right-hand side guy because I want to divide by the bigger number to get the smaller total number here. 52.336. All of that is less than my sigma, which is less than the square root of 30 minus 1 times standard deviation squared, 1.2 squared, over, and all of that's over the left-hand side guy, which is 13.121. Okay, and I don't have my calculator with me at this. Oh, I do have hang on, let me check. I'm sorry. I don't have a calculator. I didn't think I brought it with me. I'm sorry. So you can do this math though, 29 times whatever 1.2 squared is, and then divide by the 52.336. And then remember, save the square root, just like when we did standard deviation, we saved the square root for last, right? So same thing here. The numbers that I have on my notes are 0.89 is less than my sigma is less than 1.78. Okay, there's my confidence interval for my sigma guy. Okay, so several steps involved in that. You had to figure out your endpoints to truncate your chi-squared and get it down to a normal looking thing. You had to find your degrees of freedom. You had to use the table to get your endpoints, your left side and your right side. And then the last piece in finding the actual confidence interval, if you'll remember, it's always whatever the population parameter is in the middle. So 0.89 is less than sigma is less than 1.78. So what we're saying is that we are very certain that my population standard deviation, that's what sigma was, remember? Population standard deviation falls somewhere between these two numbers. And that's a really tight confidence interval, right? It's less than 1 milliliter or milligram off. And it should be really tight, right? Again, we're dealing with allergy medicines. So it's a 99% confidence interval. So 99% chance that my population standard deviation is somewhere in that little bitty confidence interval. So that's what that's about. All right. I apologize for having to make a very small video, but at least it's short. And we are finished with that information about chi-square. All right. I hope that helps. Let me know if you have questions. Thanks.